Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode number 250 of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And I'm so excited to have a person who matters to me. Shannon, we haven't really connected a ton, but I remember when we met back in, I'm going to say 2014 or 15,
That's probably,
which,
yeah,
yeah, I was teaching a class in your market center out in Maryland.
right.
And we've been connected ever since. So my guest today is Shannon Miller-Lutz, and Shannon has a really fun story. She is a certified positive intelligence coach, among a lot of other things. Her company is called SML Coaching. I can give that list, Shannon. I will as we talk because we have so
Yeah.
many things in common on that list. But I just wanted to welcome you and thank you for being with me today.
Thank you. I like that this is episode 250. That's a nice round number. It's a
Right,
good number. It
right.
has good energy.
Good juju to that number. I know, and
Yeah.
it's funny. This is 5 seasons, and it's when I look back on when this started, it was during COVID, and you just never think that it's going to get to 250. You just one foot in front of the other, and things just
Yeah.
keep happening, and all of a
Well,
sudden, it's like,
congratulations to you.
yeah, thank you. So, Shannon, I want to talk about all of the things you have. Can I just read from your bio for a
Yeah.
second and then you can
Yeah. Go
tell me?
ahead.
So, upon reaching the milestone age of 50, Shannon found herself contemplating the legacy she wanted to leave behind. And funny, Shannon, we were just talking about episode I just recorded before this about legacy.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to hear that story about what it was because you were in real estate when I met
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I've been in the real estate world since 1993.
mm,
And I started out as a mortgage processor and then an originator, and then finally started selling real estate in 2006. So, like you mentioned, we met, I think it was Six Personal Perspectives you were teaching
yeah,
in our market center.
yep.
And in 2014, I was pretty successful. I had a coach at the time and I was, growing my business. And my um like you said in my bio, when I turned 50, this was 2015, I turned 50. Yes, I'll be 60 this year. So that's 10 years
Welcome
ago.
to the 60s. It gets better and better, I'm telling you.
Yeah. So just what goes through my head is Welcome to the 60s from Hairspray the musical, because this goes in
Yes.
story. This goes in my story because I'm a
I love it.
Broadway fanatic.
I
I
love
don't just
it.
love it, I'm obsessed.
Okay.
There's always Broadway musicals going on in my head. So for my 50th birthday, my husband, we were still living in Maryland at the time, and he said, "What do you want to do for your 50th?" And I said, "Have you met me? I would like to go to New York because I went to New York a lot. One of the perks of living so close is it was, you go for a day." So we went up for the weekend. We saw 4 shows, and the last show, look, if I could have seen more in a weekend, I would have seen more, but that was all that between night and matinees. But the last show we saw was Hamilton, and Hamilton had just transferred from the Public Theater to Broadway. There was no cast album. There were little snippets of a couple of the songs, but there wasn't really much known about it. So this was September of 2015, and it transferred in June. So it had only been on Broadway for about 3 months. And I have a friend who's on Broadway, and I had told her we were going to be seeing it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to love it." So we were watching the show, and at intermission, I am a complete mess. I am bawling. I'm just so moved by what I'm seeing. And in the moment, I had no idea. I'm like, why am I crying? Why am I so upset about the founding fathers? Like, this is crazy. Have you seen it? Have you seen Hamilton?
I've seen not in person on TV.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you can only imagine
Yeah.
seeing it live and not even
Yeah.
knowing what it's in for, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, what I unpacked over the next 3 years,
Mm,
from 2015 to 2018,
mm,
it was kind of this existential crisis. And it was all about this idea of legacy from Hamilton.
mm,
So, for those of you that know theater, there's always a theme. There's always a theme for a show. So,
mhm.
like Fiddler on the Roof, the theme is tradition.
Right.
For Hamilton, the theme is legacy. And he sings about legacy a lot in the show. What is a legacy? It's
Mm,
planting seeds in a garden you never get to see.
yeah.
And this just moved me. So, at the time, I had a production coach, which had helped my business. So, my quote, best year in real estate was 2017, where I sold, I think, 53 homes as a single agent.
Wow. That's
Small,
good.
I had leverage. I had an assistant and a,
Mhm.
a transaction coordinator and stuff. But I wasn't like, I looked really happy and successful on the outside, but I was miserable.
Mhm.
And I had agents come to me and say, I want to be just like you. And I'm like, you better be careful what you wish for, because it looks all good on the outside and I'm making, a lot of money, but I am stressed out. I am overwhelmed. I am not spending time on my relationships or on my health. And it was really this idea of, I am past middle age at 50, unless you get to be 100. Like, people think middle
Right.
age, like, our age, like 50s. No, no, no. That's like 30s and 40s, your middle age, right? So
Mhm.
I was just having these thoughts of like, what is my legacy? What am I doing? Like, if this is it, this sucks. I This is not, adulting is not all it's cracked up to
Right.
be.
Right.
And I wanted to have these conversations, and I would try and have them with my production coach, and he was great. And he would work a little bit, but production coaches, they're graded on, is your client growing their business? And for
Right.
me, more business was not the answer. I did not
Yep.
want to grow my business. I felt
Right.
out of control, as so many agents do. We feel like we're just in reaction mode all the time.
Mhm.
We're just putting out fires. Everybody's hair is on fire all the time. Like, we're
Mhm.
just in this fight or flight constantly.
Mhm.
I did not need more business. I needed a path to less stress and more control over my life.
Mhm.
So one of the things that my production coach did for me was, he said, I want you to write your eulogy. And he
Wow.
said, it's not going to be, perfect the first time. There's going to be rewrites, there's going to be edits. But this idea of, what do you want people to say? And I know you said this in your last episode. What do you
Yeah.
want people to say about you when you're gone? What
Mhm.
is the thing that you want them to feel while you're here, that when you're gone, they all say the same thing?
Mhm.
And when you think about Jimmy Carter passing
Yeah.
recently, they all said the same thing about him.
Yep.
Like, he was living his values and who he was
Mhm.
every day. Everybody said the same thing. And
Yep.
that's what we need to focus on,
Mm.
for legacy is, are we living who we
Mhm.
want to be known as when we're gone,
Right.
and held in such high esteem?
Yeah.
So, my production coach said, I think you need to talk to a transformational coach. So he handed me off to his transformational coach. And I mean, from the first conversation, I was like, yes, these are the
Mhm.
conversations I want to be having.
Mhm.
Values, purpose, mission, legacy. I want to dig into this so much. So
Right.
this was, I want to say, like August maybe of 2018. So from
Okay.
almost 3 full years
Yeah.
that I was really wrestling with all of this. And here's the little, pro tip here. Personal development does not happen overnight.
Oh, yeah. We are in such a microwave society, aren't we? We just want it now. And
Yeah,
it's
but
crock pot.
it is a process, and there is so much juicy goodness in the process. It doesn't feel like it when you're in the process. It feels messy and icky and everything else, but looking back, you're like, oh gosh, what a great journey
That's what they
that.
call it. I love that Keller Williams has this transformational coach track, because when you think about even what that means, it's the middle of the transformation is where the caterpillar's messy, and it's, I mean, you've heard the story about somebody finds a cocoon and tries to help the butterfly out
Yeah,
before the butterfly's ready, and the butterfly dies because it in that yucky icky stage you have to
yeah,
get fully cooked. And you're
fully
right, it
cooked.
takes time.
It takes time. So, and when you're ready, the teacher appears. So
Mm.
I switched to the transformational coach, and very quickly, like within a couple months, I said, I want to be having these kind of conversations every single day.
Mhm.
This is what I want to do. I
Mhm.
want to have these deep conversations and connect deeply with people and help them to become the best version of them, so that when they get to the end of their life, they're not like, oh, crap. I shoulda, coulda, woulda,
Yep.
regrets, and look, no one's going to get to the end and be like, "Hey, I did everything perfectly."
Yeah.
But I wanted to help as many people as I could to realize their true superpowers and their strengths and the things that make them them, and lean into that
Mm.
without fear.
Right.
or with less fear,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know? And so I said, I want to be a coach.
Mm.
And I was on the track to be a transformational coach within KW. Um, and they said, okay, well, you've got to get your master practitioner certificate of NLP. And that is, well, the first course is like a weekend, and the master prac, that's prac. The master prac is 2 weeks. It's intense. You learn how to hypnotize people and put them in a catatonic, hypnosis state, and it's kind of fun. Um, and you need to go to one of these two top coaching schools. So they gave you the top two schools in the world: CTI, Coactive Training Institute, and IPEC. My coach had gone to IPEC, but I chose CTI because they had classes in DC. It was close, I was in Baltimore area. So I spent 2019 doing all of that. Prac, then started CTI, then had Master Prac, and then I went into the certification in 2020, well, late 19 to 20, certification for CTI. So it was like total, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Long story short, did not become a transformational coach with them. I'm on my own. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But yeah, but so I get to connect deeply and make a difference, my legacy, through my role as a coach, or even on these podcasts, or in
Mhm.
everyday conversations. That's
Mhm.
what drives me every day. It's not this
Yeah.
little, how you doing?
It's so interesting because our stories are so similar. And I think when we met, I was in the middle of my own, existential crisis back then because I spent that year when I met you, traveling all across the US teaching that course that I taught.
Mhm.
And I had similar aspirations, and we just went about it in different ways. But I too am a certified, I'm not a master practitioner because I took the route of the whatever the speaker side of that was, the trainer part.
Oh,
So I didn't
yeah,
do master prac, but
certified
I did
trainer or
yep,
whatever.
yep,
Mhm.
and I did that. And then, but I too, same kind of path. And I think for those of us who have that yearning or that, because it's kind of a restlessness, at least it was for me, like a
Yeah,
restlessness, a
like an itch
discontent.
that needs to get scratched
Yeah,
or something. Yeah,
yeah. And if you don't find a way to scratch that itch, I think that could stay with you for a long time, I would bet. Because you're in real estate, you're doing well, things are going, on the outside, everybody's like, what's going on? You're doing fine.
yeah,
But unless you find that path, man, I can't imagine how people do it. Or find your
yeah,
people. How about that? Find your people.
yeah. Yeah, and to pivot from having this big business
Mhm.
where my GCI in 2017 was like 480 or something crazy,
Yeah,
right? I'd never made so much money in my life, but I
yeah.
was not happy. Money's not my
Mhm.
driver.
Right.
It's a driver for some people. Okay, no
Hmm.
judgment, but it was not a
Hmm.
driver for me. I have a great husband that I wasn't spending enough time with.
Hmm.
I joked that I was spending $50 a month to drive my gym clothes around because I never went to the gym because
Yeah.
I was either showing houses at night, or if I had a night off, I was like, thank God, I just want to go home, you know? So I wasn't focused on me and making myself the best version of myself. And, whether you're in real estate or not, I think this happens to a lot of people. I see posts all the time that on different Facebook groups that I'm in, where there's women mostly, that get to a point at 30s, 40s, 50, whatever, where they feel that emptiness and they're like, is this it? Is this it? So whether
Hmm.
you still have kids at home, or
Hmm.
you are an empty nester, or you're changing careers, or you're just, we have chapters all the time that start in our lives.
Hmm.
And sometimes we push through and we don't really listen to like all the little noise of like, what's really going on? And we just wake up and do the thing. And
Right.
we wake up with a life that we're like, this is not what I planned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it seems too hard to change it. And you just
I,
feel empty. And that's so sad.
that's the part that I think when people hit that space and the fear, like you said earlier, not to get rid of the fear, but to work with the fear. And if people let the fear win, I think they probably will continue chasing the dollars or chasing the transactions of life and forget
Yeah.
about the relationships of life. But I mean, I guess I can't judge anybody's path. It is what
Yeah.
it is for them.
Mhm.
And I think when you and I have the paths that we've had. And like for me, I was never money motivated. So I was never in real estate as a real estate agent. I never made money in real estate.
Mm.
So for me, from the beginning of my life, I've never been money motivated, which in ways I wish I would have been, because then I could have figured it out and had money. I've been struggling the whole time without money.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an interesting way to get to the result we've both seem to have landed on. Money is necessary, as you said. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money or being money motivated, but at some point it doesn't fulfill the.
Mm.
I'm going to venture into something that I don't mean to be divisive here, but I always think of it for me as a God-shaped hole that only God can, or spirit or energy or something like that
Mm.
can fill, because it's this hole I'm trying to fill with other things on the outside, and what's
Yeah.
needed is something on the inside. At
Yeah.
least that's been
And
my
that
journey.
hole, usually we fear it. So we're
Yeah.
we're we're filling it up with fear. So I my husband now is my second marriage.
Hmm.
My first husband I met when I was 19. And whether you have a perfect childhood or not perfect childhood, we all have issues. My childhood was not the worst, but it wasn't the greatest.
Okay.
And I had holes within myself that I was trying to fill with a relationship. And I grew up, I remember Sundays watching PBS all day and watching all the old movies. And so I just thought you fell in love and everything was like perfect, right? And my mother had been married. Well, by the time I met my first husband in college, she was on her third husband. She's now on her fourth. God love her. I think she figured out the fourth one. But anyway, so I had this whole about relationships, right? I had this, oh, I'm going to find the perfect thing. And I didn't have a model for what a healthy relationship looked like. So I had a hole that I was trying to fill. So I just met a guy, fell in love, changed my whole life because I was living in Florida at the time. I was going to Florida State. We met in spring break, and he was from Montgomery County, Maryland. So I chased him there after a year, and I spent 34 years in Maryland. And one day I woke up and I said, this was never my dream. My son doesn't live here anymore because our son that we had together had since gone off to school. He lives in South Carolina. I was no longer married to the Maryland boy. I had this big business and this great new husband, but Maryland was never my dream. My dad's parents had a place in Pompano on the east coast of Florida that, being a child of divorce, we would spend Christmas down there between Christmas and New Year's in Florida. And I was like, oh, this is amazing as a kid, right? Woo, this is great. As I grew up in Tennessee, so it's, not super cold, but it's cold enough. We get ice and everything. So I was like, this is great. I want to live in Florida. So I went to school at Florida State, not really thinking it's not really Florida. It's more South Georgia because it's in the panhandle. They just had 8 inches up there, right?
Okay. Yes, I saw that. Oh my
It's
goodness.
insane. But it
If
got me
you're,
to
by the way, if you're watching the video, I don't know if you're watching the video or listening to the podcast. Shannon right now has no sleeves. She's got like her bare arms, and I'm sitting with my I'm bundled up, let's say. I'm in North
our
Dakota
sweater. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's so cold. So it is kind of funny to notice that. Yes, they did get snow though. You're right. Just this
Yeah. It
winter.
was it was it was insane. It happens. But my goal from the time I was little is I wanted to live in Florida. I adored my grandmother. I wanted to be like her, and she would just lay out and had these beautiful painted nails, and I just thought she was so elegant and lovely, right? And it was the 60s, like you imagine the beautiful, bathing suits, and it was very, glamorous. And remember, I grew up watching all those old movies. It was just like
Yeah.
like an old movie to me. It was just fantastic. And but I gave up on my dreams because I had a fear and I was trying to fill it, thinking I'll never find anybody else to love me. This is the one relationship. I had that hole that I was trying to fill out of fear. And I think as we get older, we learn how to recognize that hole and learn how to fill it with love and gratitude and joy. And oh, I just felt the hole fill up when I talked about that,
Uh-huh. I know.
right?
Yep.
And I would never wish that experience away because that's part of my journey. And I learned a lot. As painful as it is to go through a divorce and, all that kind of stuff. Wow, what a great lesson of looking back and saying, yeah, I was broken. I thought I knew my shit, but I did not. Think you know everything at 19, right?
I think though you're right, because if you look at just your industry, just that industry of real estate, and you look at the reason people, very few people in my experience start in real estate. They come to real estate as a second career somewhere for
Mhm.
whatever reason. And in my experience, the reason people have gone into real estate is because they were feeling that restless and discontent at whatever job they had before. They
Yeah.
want to make a lot of money in
Mhm.
many cases. That's what real estate can offer, because it can be very lucrative. But if
Yeah.
people are, to your point, if they're chasing or trying to fill this hole with something else, they're probably going to end up where you noticed yourself being,
Yeah.
but without wanting
Burnout.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, but without wanting to face how they got there. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
it's,
so many times in real estate that the top producers, and look, I'm not in production anymore.
mhm.
Life's good. My clients go to the call and they're like, "Do you miss it?" And they're like complaining about a seller or a buyer. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, I do not. I do not miss the craziness.
Mhm.
But when you're in that craziness, you don't give yourself space to really reflect or to like examine, like take it out and kind of like, is this really working? Because you're always like going,
Right.
going, going, you know? And so it can take a lot. It takes courage and a lot of bravery to be able to, sit with your coach maybe and talk about, I'm miserable. This is awful. How can, and it doesn't mean you have to leave real estate.
Yeah.
I did because I wanted to move to Florida, back to Florida. And so at my age, I said, I don't really see starting, you know, a real estate career again. I wanted, the goal for me was to be more flexible. So it's the reason I got into real estate to begin with. I was a single mom. My son was 11 at the time. And I knew real estate because I'd been in the mortgage business. And um, so I was like, okay, I have a background, I have some knowledge. I'm a single mom now. So I need some flexibility. And I got in 2006, which was a difficult market. It had already started to shift in Maryland. And I had no other, like, I wasn't getting any support. Like, I had to make this succeed. So I just did what I had to do. I did what I had to do. And then as my business grew, I kind of lost all that flexibility because I was so busy. So now in this next chapter of my life, I needed that flexibility again, mainly because I have elderly parents. My mother lives overseas. She's an old hippie. She lives in Laos on the Mekong River. She's okay. But my dad is in Michigan. And, if I need to go see him, I can do this wherever. I can coach wherever. So I wanted flexibility for my family.
Yeah.
So I think in these different chapters of your life, you just have to have that ability to be like, this isn't working for me for whatever reason. What is it that I need? What am I moving towards? And I think that's what people really stop dreaming, maybe.
I think the reality sets in, and you said my mom's an old hippie. I love that because you have that in you. I can tell, now knowing that about you, the Broadway musical part and the theatrics
Very
and the
artsy,
things that,
artsy. Yep.
yeah, the things that make you you have always been there biologically, DNA wise, I'm guessing, right? And so there's that part, but without a guide, a coach, someone to let you know that there's another way to look at this. I don't know how people do it.
You know, yeah.
I mean, you said you had a production coach and then you had to shift to a transformational coach
Hmm.
because you recognized something wasn't right. You
Yeah.
had you knew of transformational coaches. People
Hmm.
don't know that you exist probably, and I exist the way the works that we do. You have,
Yeah.
I'm going to just read through some of your certifications that you've achieved
Hmm.
since this. NLP Master Practitioner, we talked about, Neuro Linguistic Programming, which by the way is
Right.
something else to look at if anybody's feeling a call. Certified hypnotherapist, which you mentioned, MER, which is mental and emotional release master practitioner. So you can go in and help people remove the emotions from the events that happened in their lives so that they can remember things, but without the toxicity of the emotion, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Certified Professional Coactive Coach, CPCC, member of International Coaching Federation, Professional Certified Coach, member of, oh, this one I want to ask you about, member of the Association of Integrative, how do you say that word?
Integrative.
Psychology. Thank you. Look at that. I
Yeah.
can't even read it. Integrative psychology. Could you talk about that a little bit?
That is tied to my NLP training.
Okay.
So the school that I went to for NLP with Dr. Matt James,
Yep.
the
That's one I went to
Empowerment,
too. Hmm.
yep, Empowerment Inc.
Hmm.
In order to keep your certification for Master Prac,
Hmm.
this is the membership. So much like
Gotcha.
NAR is kind of our
Hmm.
governing board,
Hmm.
um, for the NLP for that school, that's the membership. And then
Okay.
for my CTI, my Certified Professional Coactive Coach, the
Hmm.
CPCC, that is under the ICF umbrella, where you have to pass your ethics and show your, you know, um, you can coach the way that is certified. And there's for people that don't know, because there's a lot of people out there call themselves coaches that don't have all these certifications, right? It's kind of the Wild West. And when you're looking for a coach, you need to be aware, like, do I need a certified coach? So in my opinion, yes, because someone can just hang out a shingle, call themselves a life coach, and one, they have very little training. If I see another ad on Facebook that says become a life coach for $25, I'm going to
I know.
scream. I spent $20,000 plus on my coaching certifications. So, right? It's like getting a master's. But the ICF has three different accreditations. So the ACC, and then the PCC, and the MCC. So it's Associate, Professional, and Master Coach. And it's based on, jumping through the certain hoops for those levels, and then how many coaching hours do you have? So like a doctor or something like that. So the PCC that I am, it's 500 plus hours of coaching. For an MCC, which is very little MCCs, it's over 5,000 hours of coaching. So yeah, so you want someone that has the experience in the training, has proven that because look, coaching is rampant in real estate, right? There's a lot of coaches. In my opinion, they're mentors. They're like, look, I'm successful, do what I did. But everybody's different. So they may try and follow your method and it doesn't work for them. And then they feel like a failure and they beat themselves up and they're like, it's never going to work for me. So there's all these things that happen. And it's because you're not really a coach, you're a mentor. You're like, here's how I do it, try it this way. And through sheer willpower, you might do it for a little bit, but then it's not really natural for you. And a coach is going to help you figure out what's going to work with your strengths, pulling out your superpowers, and how you can be successful. So there's a difference between a coach and a mentor.
Yeah, completely. And can you explain it from your experience too? Because I get this question a lot too. The difference between a counselor or a therapist and a coach?
Yeah. As a coach, we're trained or taught when somebody has, a mental health issue. So depression, clinical anxiety, something like that. We need to tell them to go to a therapist, right?
Yeah.
Our coaching sessions may feel like therapy sometimes because you feel really good after the end, like you've gotten a lot of stuff out and you're like, feel like, oh yeah, I got some insight. Um, but it's not therapy. So therapy has its place. Therapy can, especially cognitive, you know, talk therapy, where they focus on the past. Let's kind of fix and look at the past. And in coaching, we look at what's happening now. We may touch on the past a little bit, but we're focused more on, so how do we get there? Some people can go to therapy and feel like they're just spinning their wheels, they're not going anywhere. And I understand that. I've been in therapy on and off in my life. Love therapy. Love it. I've been in it since I was a teenager. My mother took us to therapy because we fought all the time. It was because yelling was the mode of conversation in our house. It was just yelling.
Yeah.
So I love therapy, but coaching really gets you to action versus just sitting in it, processing it.
That's a great distinction. That's a great way to say that. I hope you all heard that if you're listening, because action, insight without action makes no difference. And so
Yeah.
if you have all these insights, but you go back to the way things were, our lives are kind of like a rubber band, that stretches, it's going to stretch back unless we
Yeah.
have some other way to continue in a new awareness. And that's what I
Yeah.
love about coaching too. Um, Boy, there's a lot. You also say speaker and trainer. So talk to
Mhm.
me about the training that you
Yeah.
do.
Well, much like you, I did a lot of training with KW.
Hmm.
I was part of the ALC, our little board of directors in our market center as one of the, top agents there. So I taught a lot of the classes there. I came up with my own classes for things that I was really good at. And so I love being up in front and sharing and having that impact, right? Going back to my purpose of connecting deeply and making a difference and creating an impact for my legacy. So I love being able to pour in and teach the students there in their real estate journey. I did it all for free, right? And I just was like, here, I'm going to teach this, I'm going to teach that. With my background in theater, because not only do I love Broadway, but I also have a background in performing. It's like performing, and
Good.
I get energy from that. I
Yeah.
get energy from that. That's in my DNA. So I studied voice. I was a vocal performance major in college and a theater minor. And I love performing. I say that when I would go on appointments with clients, I would have my script, but I do a little improv. I was like, I can
Yeah.
improv and have like a little structure with my scripts and stuff.
Yeah.
But so I used all of that, and improv is huge in coaching. There's a lot of people with theater background that are in coaching because you have to really think on your feet and be in the moment. So that all helps with coaching as well. But um, I still teach. I teach my clients. I'll do presentations at different pitch sessions here in Florida or whatever. I'll do a little teaching here and there. The speaking is a goal that I am working on. So, in light of this goal of being a paid speaker, is showing up on podcasts. So, reaching people, if anyone hears me and they're like, gosh, Shannon, I would love for you to tell your story to my group. Here's what our budget is, and here's what we, kind of the theme we'd like you to hit. Perfect.
Yeah.
Also allows me to craft my story a little bit more. The more that I'm on podcasts, it allows me to tell my story in a different way and kind of hone what I might say from stage.
Yeah.
So I have put it out there that I'm a speaker because I am
I
a
love it.
highly paid speaker, just
I
not
love it.
today.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so that you're doing things, in my observation of you, you're doing things in a way that feels authentic at every step. And I don't know if that's true for you now where you are, but when I look back on my career, I've faked so much of my life in so many ways because your point earlier about getting a mentor, which they were calling coaches in real
Hmm.
estate, I was taught to stand on the shoulders of giants and
Hmm.
then just find somebody who, like you just said. And what I am recognizing now more and more is, well, that would let me see what they see, but only what they see. There's got to be another way. There's got to be more. It's got to be more expansive. The training I took that changed everything for me was landmark
Oh yeah,
education. And I did
yeah,
that in 2003, and that just opened everything up to me. But then trying to put all of that into a box that was a job description was just it was
yeah.
stifling. And so recognizing, it sounds like you're saying I've learning my legacy. I know what I'm here for. I love the Barbie movie for Billie Eilish's song. What was that
Oh my God, I
for?
could go on and on
I
about the
know.
Barbie, the hero's journey, and like the whole thing.
Yes.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
So good. Okay, so I want to ask you one question. Have you seen the music video? Billie Eilish's music video about what was I made for?
Well, I have heard
The
the
one
song,
where
but I haven't
she's
seen the
okay.
video.
So I'm asking everybody about this because I have my interpretation of it, but I'd love to hear somebody else's. So there's
Cool.
a music video about that. I should put it in here, but I won't here. I'll ask you all to go out and look for it. She's got a yellow dress on, and she's sitting on it's a soundstage, but and I'm not even going to explain any more than that. I'm going to ask you, Shannon, if
Mhm.
you will watch that, and offline, if we could compare notes about that.
100% I will do that. 100%.
There's
Yeah.
just something in that that moved me so deeply. And I think, well, the people who listen already know this, but the day after the last election, not the day after, like Wednesday was, I was pretty much catatonic, but the
Oh yeah, I
day
had a full
after,
panic attack. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the Thursday, I woke up on Thursday morning and I went, oh my gosh, I was made for this time and place. I was
Wow.
made for this because I've been listening to Billie Eilish. What was I made for? I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that the gap, this is just me now going on a little soapbox here, but the gap between anything, pick anything. And well,
Mm-hmm.
politics is what we're talking about now, but pick anything, pick any category, real estate agents. I mean, the gap between, let's say, the haves and the have-nots, or the up and the down, or the duality that we experience in the world is getting so much wider,
Yeah.
which I was focusing on the wider spots, not the gap that is
Yeah.
giving me a whole lot more opportunity because
Yeah.
I'm much more interested in how we come together than how we separate.
Yeah.
So when I went, oh my gosh, I'm made for this because my whole purpose, my legacy, whatever we were just talking about, is connection, communication, and collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
What better time and place in history for me than now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that
What a
was a
gift.
huge aha for me.
Yeah.
So when you recognized yours and you recognized not this, you know, for a lot of years it was not this. Did you land? Do you think you've landed on yes, this?
Yeah. So in coaching school, you obviously have to practice coaching each other. So you are
Hmm.
coached
Hmm.
hours every
Hmm.
day,
Right,
hours.
right, right.
And it doesn't make us perfect. We're not perfect at the end. We
Yeah.
just have a lot of awareness.
Mhm.
And people talk about your why, and Simon Sinek in the book and all that
Mhm.
stuff. And I just struggled with it for so long. And I
Mhm.
said, shouldn't it be my son? Because if I don't say my son, don't I suck as a parent? Like, but it didn't energize me. Look, the sun shines out his ass. Like he's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that.
you know,
Mhm.
we laugh about it because he's like, Mom, I'm not 3 years old. Because when I look at him, I'm like, he's like, I know that look. I'm not 3 years old. I'm like, that was my favorite age. You were so beautiful. Anyway, um, so I was like, shouldn't it be my son? Because otherwise I'm horrible. And it just didn't energize me. And your purpose should energize you because that um it's called spiritual energy if you're familiar with the power of full engagement. So that's the spiritual energy. It's your purpose, your mission, and it should give you energy to walk through the hard things because it matters so much to you. And I love my son and I would do anything for him, but it just wasn't it. So in coaching school, I boiled it down. And I think a lot of people, me included, at the beginning, it was this big flowery thing. Blah, 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 blah. It was very wordy, trying to just encompass everything. And over time, it's boiled down and it's basically connecting deeply, making a difference. That's it. That's what energizes me. Like after we get off this podcast, because we've been connecting so deeply, I'm going to be bouncing off the walls. I'm going to be so energized. So you need to pay attention to what moves you and what gives you energy. When I cried about Hamilton, that was a little flag. Pay attention. This matters. And that's how you find that purpose, that energy. And what better time now than connect deeply with people and to make
For
a
sure,
difference,
for sure. And
right?
I would add, I think, I'm not sure about this, but let me try this out. It feels to me like a mission or a purpose or a, legacy, what I'm here for, is a toward, not an away from. It has to
Yeah.
be a toward. It has to be a positive. It has to be, it's not, I'm here to make sure that everybody knows I'm the richest person in the world, or I'm not here
Yeah.
to, it's
Right.
not about me. It's about the impact I can have, like you said, make a difference. And I
Yeah.
kind of think if you're getting this aha about how I want to be in charge of everything in the world, that's probably not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
How would we distinguish that?
Yeah.
People
Well,
are,
I love this idea of towards.
mhm,
We're so clear on what we don't want. When I ask clients, what is it, that we're going towards? And like, well, I don't want this and I don't want that. I don't
mhm,
want that.
mhm,
I'm like, okay, well, that's easy. But as we NLPers know, the brain doesn't hear not.
mhm,
So we have to reframe,
mhm.
how we're saying it so we get out the word not because
Yeah,
if we
right.
if we don't want to feel something, It doesn't hear don't, we just end up feeling the thing.
Right. Right.
So I had a coaching call right before this where my client said, I want to be more confident. And I said, okay, well, we're going to move towards that. Right. Because she said, well, I don't want to feel this. And I said, okay, we have to unpack this. And she was like, it's too hard. And I was like, look, we got 10 minutes left on the call. We can unpack
Mm.
this. And I said, first of all, we have to figure out how will you know that you're more confident? Like when you're running a marathon, you know where the finish line is. Otherwise, you're like this. You're going back and forth and back and forth. Like, I don't know where I'm going, over here in the woods. And now I'm over in this parking lot. Like, you've got to head towards that finish line. So get really clear on, I want to feel more confident. I'm moving towards something. How will I know that I've reached it? What will I feel? What will I think? How will it appear? And so we took a few minutes and we worked on it. And by the end of those 10 minutes, she realized she she was like, I don't want to feel this. She's like, I want to feel joyful. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, look, we did it in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Moving towards joyful. So it was really in interactions with her boss who always made her feel shame in the interactions. And she's like, I don't want to feel shame. I was like, oh yeah, what do you want to feel? She's like, well, it's joyful.
Mm.
And so she texted me and she said, it went great. And I said, how do you feel? I said, do you feel more confident? She goes, yes. She's like, it's great. So I wholeheartedly agree with you that we have to be moving towards something and we have to be really clear on what that is. And I think kind of circling back to the beginning of our conversation with feeling that emptiness and that hole and that like, is this it? It's because we're not moving towards anything. We're just waking up and checking off these boxes of like, I pay the bills, I do the groceries, I cook, I take care of the family, I do the laundry. No wonder you're feeling empty. You're not moving towards anything.
Well, and I think given your experience and certification in as a master practitioner of NLP, and we talked earlier about how you can help people get rid of some of those limiting beliefs that they don't even know are there because they're unconscious.
Yeah.
And so if people are doing the best they can on the hamster wheel of their lives because they have to pay the bills and do the things you just mentioned, there might be something missing that they're not aware of. And so
Mhm.
with your help, those kinds of things can be looked at. I always think of it like a flashlight. It's not like you have all the answers as the coach, but you're shining a light and going, could it be
Yeah.
that? Could it be that? And your
Yeah.
client just said, what for her, what does confident feel like? You can't
Yeah.
explain that for her. She has to tell you.
Exactly. And wanting something and then not even knowing what
Yeah.
it looks like
Yeah.
or feels like, well, then how do you know
Mhm.
you're gonna get there?
Exactly, exactly. This is so good, Shannon. You are in the right space for the right time, I think. And the industry, do you do mostly real estate coaching or is it
I do
anything?
mainly real estate coaching. The
Yeah.
the client that I just referred to, she's a lawyer,
Okay.
another stressful job. So I
Mm,
really focus on people that are dealing with stress,
mm,
whether they're self-employed, like realtors, or some
mhm,
lawyers are self-employed. I have coached
yeah,
other small business owners,
mhm,
um, or just they're looking for more. They're ready to
yeah,
scratch that itch that we talked
yeah.
about. Like there's got to be more. Like
Mhm,
I am not showing up how I want to be. Like this is not who I want to be.
yeah.
And so if you go to my website, smlcoaching.com, you'll see there's kind of two options. There's like the realtor and then there's the woman's group. And that's another passion of mine because like I said, I've been through a divorce. I've been a single mom. I was in an abusive relationship for 6 years. I've started several businesses, right? Real estate and now coaching. I've had cancer. I shattered my shoulder in the middle of all my coaching training. So not only was I growing myself, but I was learning how to use my arm again. I have 10 or 9 pins and a plate holding my shoulder
Wow.
together. Yeah. So I've had quite the hero's journey myself. And so I see these women that feel so empty and I'm here to show them like I've been there and I'm here to show you, look, it's not perfect on the other side, but it can be better.
So good. Oh, there's so much more we could talk about. If people wanted to get a hold of you, is the best way on your website, or is there another way that they could get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can, there's a contact me form on
Okay.
my website, obviously, so they can do that.
Mhm.
If they're curious about working with me, just send me a contact, me form and we'll set up a discovery call. And I'm on social media. So on my website, you'll see the links for Facebook and some other things. I'm also on LinkedIn. I don't think there's a link on my website for,
We should get better at LinkedIn. Shannon, you and I both should get better.
yeah.
I don't should
That's
very often,
actually,
but
yeah, I'm actually working purposely on LinkedIn right now because
yeah.
that's where I find the people that want to hire
Mm-hmm.
speakers. So I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
on LinkedIn right now. But if you just Google either Shannon Miller-Lutz, and it's Miller-Lutz,
Mm-hmm.
or SML Coaching, so that's
Mm-hmm.
just my initials,
Yep.
you will find me on
Okay.
uh, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You'll
Okay.
find me. Yeah,
So it's impossible to not find, that's two double negatives. It's
yeah,
impossible to not find Shannon if you are
I'm
looking for.
around. Yeah,
If something you heard here is like that little tingle that you were describing earlier, and you're like, I have to do something with this, please do not let that feeling pass you by. Because feelings, I'm doing a little bit of research into feelings, they'll last about 90 seconds, whether they're really good or really bad. And so if you are struggling with a really bad feeling, let it pass 90 seconds, just be with it. But if it's a really good feeling, act on it right away because otherwise it goes away after 90 seconds. So if you hear something, do something. Take action. Insight without action makes no difference. And so contact Shannon. Let her know that you either want to talk to her about coaching or you have a group that would benefit from her speaking
yeah.
because
That
that's what.
little positive signal that you were talking about, that's really our
Mhm.
intuition.
Mhm.
It's our, inner voice, it's our higher power, whatever you want to call it. But that intuition is like whispering,
Yeah.
pay attention. This is it. You need to act on this. And so you have to start trusting your intuition. That's one thing that they teach us as coaches is like when a thought pops in our head, we say it because it
Yeah.
might land with our clients. Sometimes it doesn't, but
Right.
you have to trust that intuition that those thoughts come into your head for a reason.
Mhm.
So listen to it.
Listen, everyone, what a great, great message. Shannon, what a pleasure to reconnect and to have this conversation. So I am holding the space that you'll step onto that stage as a speaker
Yeah.
and will become that paid speaker that you have in your vision because it's
Thank
just a
you.
matter of time, my friend.
It is, it is. I appreciate the opportunity and I have loved catching up with you. And
Oh,
I am going to go watch that Billie Eilish video and
oh,
see
please
what,
do. And let's talk about that later. Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Hey, just go get real, everybody. Take some inspiration from this conversation and take it into your own life. We'll talk again. Thanks.